So I'm mainly making this video just to get my thoughts out there about this. I don't actually expect this video to do anything. I just wanted to voice what I think on the matter. This video is mostly just going to be me bickering about stuff you probably don't care about, so be warned. Alright, so SBMM. If you are somewhat familiar with the multiplayer gaming community, then you have definitely heard this acronym before. If you don't know what SBMM means, it basically stands for Skill-Based Matchmaking. Now, what is skill-based matchmaking? It is basically when a game pairs you up with other players that are similar skill level to you. So if you are a bad player, you'd typically go up against other bad players, and if you're a pro player, you would go up against other pro players. You might be wondering, what is the issue with this system? I mean, it sounds fair, right? Well, that's what I want to get into in this video. Now, I want to get into a few things. I want to explain what are the issues with SBMM, how these issues have affected multiplayer games, player bases, and communities, and what I think is the solution, which you would already know from the title. Now, obviously, I don't really know what goes on behind the scenes when game developers decide to include SBMM, but I still think that a lot of what I'm going to say here still applies. Alright, now let's get started with the issues SBMM brings to these games. So to start, we need to find out why SBMM exists, because there of course has to be a reason why so many games now use this system. Well, the answer is pretty obvious, to be honest. It basically exists in order to protect bad players. Developers don't want a brand new player to rage quit after getting stomped on by a pro player, so they put them into lobbies with other new players so they don't have to deal with TTV Pub Stomper 83 every game they play. It's supposed to make new players feel welcome, which will motivate them to play more, which means more money for devs. You may think this is a good thing, but that's where you're wrong, and here's why. Imagine after a long day of work and you just want to go home, chill, and play a few games, but since you actually put in the effort to get really good at the game that you're enjoying, you're not going to go up against just players who are just as good as you are, meaning none of your games are ever going to be a fun, relaxing experience like you were hoping to get. The devs are punishing you just because you enjoyed and played their game, and I don't know about you, but I think that sounds pretty damn stupid. I'm sorry, but I don't think it's fair that just because you are somewhat good at the game that you're never allowed to have fun. And I'm not just saying this because all pro players want to do is pub stomp the heck out of new players just for the hell of it. I'm saying this because yes, even all the way you consider sweaty players want to actually chill and have a fun time without having a sweaty experience every time they play. It might be hard to believe, but trust me when I say that this is the reason why so many people have recognized that SBMM is a big issue. I also want to point out that I am nowhere near a pro player for any multiplayer games I play, as you can probably tell from the background footage, so don't come in here thinking I'm a toxic pro player who is just upset that I'm dying to people that are better to me. Good players do not bother me, people. I just wanted to get that out of the way. I don't know, man. I just really don't think SBMM should gatekeep good players from having a good time. But of course, none of these companies care because they rather cater to the side of the player base that give them more money rather than the dedicated side of the player base that actually cares about the game. I seriously can't tell you guys enough how boring, repetitive, and obnoxious it feels having to constantly go against the same players over and over again. It gets stale so quick, and I feel like that has ultimately ruined these games that used to be pretty fun. And I feel like games like Fortnite, Cold War, Warzone, Apex, and many other games never feel as fun as they used to because of SBMM. And yes, I do play Fortnite, and yes, I know, OMG, that's so cringe, Fortnite is so bad, yada yada yada, I've heard it all before. I've really enjoyed the new season of the game recently, but what has been hurting the game so much from reaching what it once was all those seasons ago is SBMM, because of how tedious it is to get to fights with literally the same people over and over again. A lot of the time I'm not even fighting players that are my level. In fact, I'm always in fights with players that are actually way better than me, which leads me to my next point. SBMM is always super flawed and inaccurate in these games. I swear, whatever system these companies are using are completely broken and it makes zero sense, and I feel like the system is so damn tight that not even competitive modes feel strict and annoying. And that's not a good thing. Explain to me why the hell do public games have to have super strict and inaccurate matchmaking system when it's supposed to be the damn casual mode? The mode where literally everyone is allowed on. What I mean by SBMM being inaccurate is that let's say one game you do alright. Maybe get an average amount of kills, but don't win the game. Now, suddenly the next time you load into the game, people will think that because you did slightly better, you're suddenly a god at the game, and now you are playing against the best players imaginable, and your team gets destroyed instantly. Not fun, right? And you'd think that after one game, it would have overestimated you and placed you back in easier lobbies. Nope. The game will make you spend a whole nother 4 games before it finally realizes that you aren't that good at all and you get one match at most in easier lobbies. I really can't show you if this is true, but ask anyone that is at least somewhat decent in one of these games and I'm sure they would agree. It makes me wonder, what was even the point of adding SBMM if it's in general such a flawed system that I don't think any company has gotten it down correctly? And I get that it might not even be possible to make it completely fair, but then that just tells me that it shouldn't even be a thing at all, and if it could ever never be done right. One more point I'd like to make is that SBMM does not give you the incentive to actually learn and get better at the game you're playing. The reason why you would even want to get better in the first place is so you can outskill other players in your lobby. But what's the point if the players you go up against are always going to get better with you, making your lobbies an even more frustrating and unfun experience? You can never truly get better with this system because there is no way fighting players at the same skill level is going to help you out much at all. Every game is just going to be the same old and it will get stale so quick. Now, throughout the gaming community, there has always been plenty of discussion about SBMM and why it's bad or good. I mean, right now, just search up SBMM on YouTube and you'll either find a lot of videos like this one talking about SBMM, or you will find some videos of how to beat SBMM on a certain game, or just explaining how it works on a game. And there is a good reason why it is such a controversial discussion, because it genuinely does affect many different games, player bases, and communities out there. I think one of the biggest examples of this is the player base and community of Fortnite. I think in general the community is pretty toxic, but when SBMM became a thing, I feel like this is one of the major factors that started the casual versus competitive argument that has been on top of discussion for a very long time now. Of course, this conversation between the two different types of players wasn't just due to SBMM, but I can definitely say that it was one of the main reasons why the two sides have become so divided in the player base. Since SBMM caters more to casuals, a lot of competitive and pro players started to complain and whine that they shouldn't have to be forced to consistently play on these high-skilled lobbies just to shield the sweats from them. And although a casual player like me and many others do agree with this as well, there has also been a lot of casual players that argue that SBMM is a good thing and that a lot of better players are just toxic and want to pub stomp normal players. When it comes to Fortnite and other battle royale games such as Apex, PUBG, etc., I don't agree with SBMM in these games because it completely misses the point of a battle royale, which is 100 people fighting to be the last one standing. I think in Fortnite's case, they have done a good job giving everyone the opportunity to win by giving worse players cheap ways to win. And honestly, they did a little too well at this Season X. But the reason why it was never a big of an issue before Season X and SBMM is because no matter what skill level you were up against, the game's many unique and cool items always gave you the opportunity to give the upper hand. It was more about being smart and playing your cards correctly rather than now where it's just who has the better luck with getting a good shotgun shot in. And they did it in a way that didn't really piss off anybody at all, and it was great. Honestly, I think the reason why Epic Games haven't done anything that has felt super unique recently is because there doesn't have to be stuff to give you the upper hand, because SBMM already got the bad players covered by just not making them deal with it. In turn, this has made the majority of the community upset that Fortnite has just taken a step back during the new chapter, and I feel that SBMM is one of the many reasons why. Now, in terms of other non-Battle Royale games like Call of Duty, all of the issues I've already discussed still apply. Like, I genuinely feel like Cold War's multiplayer have been ruined by that fact, and I can't even catch a break because the whole other team has a 5 KD while I'm sitting here with less than 1 KD. Even though SBMM should take that into account, it doesn't. Now, when it comes to COD, SBMM has technically been around since back in the older titles, according to David Avandahar. But the difference between those games and the current ones was that the SBMM in the older titles was very minimal. For the most part, you'd come across players at all types of skill levels, and the only types of players that you wouldn't see are very, very bad players or very, very good players. But overall, I never felt like I was being punished for enjoying their games to their fullest potential, which is why it was just so enjoyable. I think in general, SBMM has completely ruined the fun of tons of multiplayer games, and overall this makes them feel like they miss a tons of potential to be pretty good and fun games to play. Now, despite all I've talked about already, is there a solution to the SBMM problem? Well, again, the title of the video is what I think is a solution, but I'm also going to cover some other alternatives to the problem and why these solutions would be beneficial. Now, obviously, the main solution I would give to the SBMM problem is to simply just get rid of it. I just don't believe in a system that gatekeeps the most dedicated part of the player base from having fun. It's sad to see that a lot of pivotal fun moments that made some of these games so great and popular can no longer be done now, because casual moments like these just aren't possible due to the forced SBMM that currently exists in these games. I think that getting rid of SBMM can bring back these moments, and a lot of content creators for Fortnite, as an example like C-Day, Fearless, Noah's Noah, etc., could actually kind of start making content they were known for again. SBMM in general does not support content creation from creators that thrived off of casual play. In general, SBMM would just be beneficial for a vast majority of the player base and would allow these games to become a lot more fun, fresh, enjoyable for me and many others. Now, for some alternative solutions, if SBMM can't be removed from these games for some reason, one alternative would be to make the system accurate. Now, I know this may be impossible to do, but at the very least, aim for it to be the most accurate it can be. I don't know if this is already done, but I think that devs should use all the data they have for a player's stat to help determine the level of the player. They may already do this, but with how inaccurate SBMM seems to be at the time, a lot of people feel this is unlikely. I feel like they should not only provide as much stats as possible, but should also make them weave together well enough and all have them play a role in how the game will match with other players. I also think that SBMM should reset often, maybe once every big update, or in most cases nowadays, every season. Going by stats that were achieved so long ago does not reflect the skill of the player. Resetting SBMM helps it become much more accurate to the player's skill. The reason why I don't think this is the best solution, though, is due to a lot of issues with SBMM still existing, like better players being punished and gatekeeping bad players. The last solution I can offer is to make SBMM a lot lighter, and I think that the way this can be done is with what some people call the two-tier system. And I didn't come up with this, by the way. Basically, every new player will always go against new players, but once the SBMM system recognizes that the player has gotten better and is good enough, they will be placed in the second tier where everyone else is on, ranging from players that are a bit good to the really good players. This allows companies to continue protecting the really bad players, but still letting everyone else in all different skill levels fight each other. Of course, this system isn't perfect, as this will probably increase the amount of Smurf accounts so good players can't pub stop the really bad players, but I do believe this is the second best solution they can give. It begs the question, does any of these companies even care at all about changing for the better? The sad truth is that the current SBMM system is what's going to get them the most money, so why should they even care? The reason why SBMM is talked about often is how much of an issue it is, and no matter how vocal people seem to be about it, there hasn't been changes at all. You'd think that they would have at least heard us, right? It makes me believe that things will never change, and it's a shame because I truly do enjoy all of these games. But now they will never reach the potential they once were at because they became so stale so quickly. That's why I said in the beginning of the video that I know this video won't change a thing because we have been proved time and time again that these companies just don't care as much as they once did. And it truly sucks. I'm hoping that one day something is going to change, but it seems that at this moment it won't, and it probably will stay like this for the future. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say for now, and I'd like to know what you guys would like to see me do for the content on this channel. I plan on mainly making commentary videos still and reviews on other games eventually, but I'd like to know what you guys would like to see as well if you, for some reason, again, care. I'd also like to thank my good friend Badger for making the thumbnail of this video. He has a YouTube channel and Instagram, and I'll link that in the description. I highly recommend checking him out. He does great content. And, well, that's all I wanted to say, so thanks for watching, I guess.